Hey guys, welcome back. So today we have the LWRC SMG45. This one is a new production gun from what I've gleaned from comments on the internet. It has a serial number that starts with 4AM, and it just recently came into Copper Custom, and it was purchased through Sports South, which is a distributor. So this gun is not a T&E gun. I did request a T&E gun some time ago, about the same time Garand Thumb did his video. And after Garand Thumb's video, LWRC kind of went radio silent. And I don't know if they shut down production or whatever. We don't know. But we're going to do a deep dive into the current production guns that are out there right now. We'll talk about its operating mechanism. We'll revisit the accuracy issues that Garand Thumb had and see if they've made any improvements. But before we get started with today's video, guys, if you enjoy the content that we create here at the Military Arms channel, please take a moment to like, share, and subscribe to our channel. You can also hit that notification bell so you can get notified when we post new videos. And with all that being said, let's get started with today's video talking about the SMG45. Hit one. If you guys haven't checked out primaryarms.com, please swing by to check them out. They have pretty much everything imaginable under the sun, great pricing, fast shipping, outstanding customer support. If you use the code MAC at checkout, if you purchase one of the PA branded optics that are magnified, you'll get a free scope mount. If you use that same code for a Prism sight or a Red Dot sight that has an integrated mount, you'll get a free anti-reflective device, a kill flash, for that optic. So please swing by and check out primaryarms.com. All right, the SMG45. Let's talk about the things I like about the gun before I get into the things I dislike about the gun. First of all, the gun commands a high price, $3,000, and that's not unusual for LWRC to have expensive products. That expense comes because the gun is made to exceedingly high standards. The machining, fitment, and finish on every LWRC product I've ever handled has been superb, and so you're going to pay for that. There are budget type options out there for AR-15s, which LWRC is known for, but there are budget carbines and pistols like this that are out there. But that's not what LWRC is about. They're about that higher price point in a pretty much a niche market of a higher end buyer. So this isn't your average run-of-the-mill type of firearm. And again, that is reflected in the overall machining and fitment of the gun. The gun does come with Magpul Pro sights. This is an MRO that was put on it afterwards. Has an SB Tactical side folding brace. It has this pick rail, monolithic. It's all one piece. The whole upper receiver is one piece. And it has a charging handle that can be reversed. Just simply pull this one out. We'll show you when we disassemble it how this works. Pull this out, pop it in on the other side, and you can reverse that charging system. It has LWRC's ping pong paddle over here, so you have ambi controls. You can lock the bolt to the rear over here using your firing finger if you're right-handed, and you can release the bolt. And then, of course, you have that same option over here, like a standard AR-15. Now, the gun has the layout of an AR-15, so it has an AR-15 fire control group, has AR-15 pistol grip, so you can swap out the pistol grip if you hear this thing rattling. That's because there's tools in the grip in the gun. That's what's making the rattling noise. But yeah, you can swap it out to a grip that you prefer, whatever. But it has a good trigger in it, very good ergonomics, very familiar to you if you like the AR-15, has a threaded barrel for suppressor use. And so overall, the gun's very well made and has a lot of features, including LWRC's proprietary rail system. Now, a lot of folks would say that they prefer to have M-LOK, which I agree is the new standard. I would like to see an M-LOK version, but LWRC's mounting options is definitely high quality and good, and they've included the facilities to mount stuff all the way back to the end of the receiver on both sides of the gun. So you can put these panels all the way back here. I don't know that you'd actually have an accessory you'd want to mount all the way back here because it's going to block your fire control options. But I mean, okay, it's there if you want to put a flashlight back here for some strange reason. So let's take the gun apart, because one thing that's been absent from some of the videos that I've seen is a discussion on how the gun actually functions, because that's something we wanted to figure out. And then we wanted to figure out how it functioned because of the accuracy testing that we did with the gun. And the accuracy testing is interesting to say the least. We decided to do some accuracy testing with the SMG45, and we used Federal ammunition, 230 grain ball, and we used some LAX 230 grain ball. And we would see decent groups appear at 50 yards. Our testing was done at 50 yards. And we would see decent groups, like the first 10-round group I shot using LAX 45 ammunition. It shot fairly respectable group at 50 yards. And I was like, okay, this thing's going to work really well. And then we set it up to fire with the Federal ammunition, 230 grain ball, and we saw a weird occasional flyer. Going back to Garantham's video where he saw a group emerge where it should be, and then you would get these random flyers that would vertically string. We saw that happening with this gun. We got one good group out of it, but then as the day wore on, we started to see those inconsistencies. Now, Garantham was shooting at 17 yards, and his shot dispersion was considerably worse than this gun. So it does seem that LWRC has improved the accuracy somewhat on these guns, because we're shooting at 50 yards, and I'm able to keep it on an IPSC kill zone size target at 50 yards for the most part. One shot we did miss, but the group, the point of impact was kind of hitting towards the edge of the plate anyway. But you will see inconsistencies in the gun in this video as we roll in that footage. Now, we also tested it not only with two different types of ammunition, but we tested it with and without the Griffin armament suppressor that you see on the end of the gun right now. We wanted to find out if the suppressor aided in accuracy or impeded accuracy, and we pretty much got the same results with and without the suppressor. We would get those occasional wild shots that would emerge well away from the group at where the gun is zeroed. So that bothers me, but granted, it's improved because we can still keep them in a kill zone target at 50 yards. Push that out to 100 yards, you're going to start missing, and we did. We started missing the target occasionally because those one-off wild rounds would just do crazy stuff. So if you're looking at this as a professional that's looking for this as a patrol firearm, for example, I would not take, say, a hostage situation shot with this thing, because you don't know if that round you fire is going to be one of the wild shots that goes astray, or if it's going to be one of the shots that's going to go to the point of aim and go to that point of impact. So that is something that really bothers me. So when we started to see that weird accuracy performance, we decided to take the gun apart and study its mechanical operation, because it seems as though that LWRC has tried to improve the accuracy on the gun, but why are they having such a hard time? And I think perhaps we've discovered what might be causing these accuracy inconsistencies. So let's take the gun apart and let's see if we can demonstrate for you what we found and what could possibly be the root cause of it. Taking the SMG45 apart is simple to a point, and then we're going to take a look at its operating mechanism for you here. So first you're going to want to unload the weapon. So I have the magazine removed, I have the charging handle over on the right hand side, and I'll pull the bolt to the rear and just make sure that there's no round in the chamber and the weapon is on safe. I'm going to go ahead and unscrew the suppressor because it will need to be removed for full disassembly. All right. Now I'm going to take the charging handle out because I want to show you that the gun can be fully assembled and you can reverse the charging handle pretty simply. So you're going to pull rearward a little bit, pull out, and just kind of do like a hook motion, like you're pulling a hook out of a fish's mouth, and it'll just pop out. If you want to put it on the other side, you just kind of set it in there, push. It goes together much easier than it comes apart, but that will allow you to put it on the other side of the gun. Now you have two push pins, much like an AR-15, although when you push this rear pin out, the lower will only hinge down about that far. That's because there's an integral part to the lower here that works with the locking system of the gun. So we're going to have to pop that front pin out to separate the two to complete disassembly. The piece that I'm talking about here is this little piece right there. This is pushing up on a locking collar that's around the rear of the barrel by the chamber. So when the barrel's pushed forward by the bolt and recoil spring, it's going to push up on that locking collar so that the gun is locked. Inside, you can see a standard AR-15 fire control group. All right, we'll set that aside. Now, this is a pistol with a brace. I assume the stock would work the same way. I don't have the SBR version, but to take the brace off, just pop up on it, and it'll just slide right out. Now, we've already removed the charging handle because it will have to be removed for this next step, and that's to draw the bolt to the rear. And this is your bolt assembly. Now it's all one piece. This recoil system and this big rubber buffer on the end are all together. You can take it apart, but just for regular maintenance, I don't see it as being necessary. And this is where your charging handle locks in up here in the front. So let's take a look at how this short recoiling system works. So the barrel, as we've pointed out, moves rearward slightly with the bolt during firing. Get a little buffer in there. So they move together for a short distance, then the bolt can come rearward, and see how that locking collar lifts up. And then when the bolt goes home on a fresh round, that locking collar can drop down, and as it goes forward, the ramp on the front of the lower receiver is going to force that locking collar down into the locked position as it goes home. Now, one thing I want to show you guys, we think, now there's no fire control group on it, this is a live round, but if I put a round in the chamber, close the bolt, now if I hold the bolt forward, or barrel forward, so that barrel cannot move, I pull the bolt rearward, it'll go that far, it'll open that much before that locking collar starts to be drawn back away from this part of the lower that's pushing it up into the locked position. So in theory, this gun can fire and start to move this much before it unlocks and moves rearward with the barrel. So the barrel home, the bolt can come open ever so slightly, about that far, with the locking collar still down. And then at that point, the cut on the bolt is going to force the barrel back and this locking collar to go up, and then the gun can eject that spent case. There's an ejector that's fixed on the side of the receiver. They'll just kick it right out of the receiver. So we think, and we don't know, the barrel just kind of free floats in there, and the fact that that bolt can open about, I don't know, 1/4 of an inch without forcing the barrel rearward. There's no booster or anything on the end of the barrel that's going to force it rearward under gas pressure. It's only going to be forced rearward when the bolt hits that little locking collar piece right here on this edge, and it forces it to come back. All right, so it can open up slightly. So maybe the accuracy issues lie in the fact that the barrel may immediately move rearward with the bolt, or maybe the bolt will start to move rearward without the barrel until it's forced to move rearward with the bolt. We don't know, but that seems to be potentially what's going on that's causing some of the erratic behavior with accuracy. I don't think it's a poor quality barrel. I think it has something to do with the short recoil system versus just a simple blowback. If they had made this gun as a simple blowback like the UMP, which it uses the magazines of a UMP, I think it would have probably given much better accuracy performance. When you have a fixed barrel, they can be among some of the most not just reliable, but some of the most accurate types of firearms. So think of the Walther PP or the Makarov or things like that, or fixed barrel, submachine guns like the MP5. If you fix that barrel, you're going to get good accuracy. So I have to believe that mechanically there's something in this design that's flawed that causes those occasional wild flyers. And perhaps the more you use it, as more of the material wears, the inaccuracies and the wild flyers might become worse. I don't know. We're not going to shoot the gun that much, but we're already seeing those signs of erratic behavior in terms of accuracy. All right, so we might have to fast forward this video a little bit because taking the barrel out of the gun at this point is difficult. You need to turn this locking collar so it can come off the barrel, and then you can pull the barrel out the rear of the receiver. This thing is like, I don't know, it has a coating on it like DLC or something that's super slick. And so if it has any oil or anything on it, it can be a little bit challenging. But before you start, you'll notice the travel of the barrel is limited. And what's limiting that travel of the barrel is this little screw in here. Now this is a serious point of contention for me because they have some sort of gummy Loctite on that screw that if you over tighten this, now the barrel won't move. I can't move it. So you have to tighten it down and then back it off just a little bit until that barrel moves freely, then the gun's going to work. But if that material, whatever that Loctite type material starts to wear, that screw in theory could just start to walk itself out. And if that happens, then the barrel can really come rearward with the bolt. And I can imagine, I don't think it's going to cause a catastrophic failure, but it would definitely cause probably some sort of a malfunction. So to get the barrel out, you're going to have to loosen the screw enough where it comes out of engagement with a little trough that's in the barrel, which I'll show you here in a moment. You can see that now the barrel dropped out. There is the trough right there that screw rides in, that's keeping that barrel from coming completely out, limiting its travel. So now this little locking collar, I have to spin around to get it off, like that. And then the barrel will just drop out the rear of the receiver, but you kind of have to turn the barrel certain ways to get around the ejector. Okay, maybe I won't have to fast forward it too much. So now you can see what I'm talking about. There's that little trough the screw rides in that limits the travel of the barrel. This is your locking collar. This fits around the barrel like this and moves up and down. And this is what engages there on the barrel. So this distance right here is how far that bolt can travel rearward without the barrel, potentially. Let me get this set up again so I can demonstrate one more time. There you go. You see how that locking system works. Okay? So we think that this system is probably the root cause of what's wrong with the design, because the gun has a bushing up here. You can see where it's machined. It's going to, when it goes into the lock position, that's kind of like where the front of the barrel is going to be supported by the front of the receiver, and then in the rear the bolt's going to be pushing it forward, and it's just going to be, you know, fit right here to support the rear of the barrel. But when it starts to move rearward, you get a little bit of motion in the barrel, because now you're not supported on this ridge here and you're not supported back here as much, so the barrel can move around while the gun's recoiling. So somewhere in this locking mechanism, we're pretty sure, is the mechanical inaccuracies that the gun has. And how to fix that? I would just make it a simple blowback like the UMP. But does this reduce recoil? Perhaps. The UMP is real punchy, has a lot of recoil in 45 ACP. I have a semi-automatic version with a fixed barrel, and it's 16 inches. But it's also a polymer gun, is super lightweight. So I don't know if that punchiness is necessarily due to the blowback, or if this delayed system of blowback operation, the Browning short recoil system, is actually reducing some of that belt recoil, or is it this big buffer back here and heavy spring? Don't know. I'm a trigger puller, not a trigger designer. So that gives you an idea of what we think might potentially be what's wrong with the gun in terms of its design and why it's doing that weird accuracy stuff. So the biggest problem I find with this gun is the mechanical inaccuracies I think that the gun suffers from, which have been improved, granted, from Garand Thumb's video, at least in the case of this particular example. I also don't like the fact that this screw that holds the barrel in place is basically friction fit with some sort of gooey substance. I can't call it Loctite, but it offers resistance. Now, if that substance gets washed away with cleaning solvents, things like that, over the years that you use it, I can see that screw backing out and causing the gun problems. I don't like that design, but I could be off. Again, I'm a trigger puller, not a trigger designer. Maybe it'll work forever just the way it is. I just don't understand the mechanism as well as I think I do. But also, you'll notice right here, if you look through the ports, if I take these covers off, you'll be able to see basically the entire barrel and locking mechanism is completely exposed to the elements here, through the charging handle slot and then through the rail slots that go all around the receiver there on the front end. So it would be interesting to see how this gun did in the gauntlet, with the fact that all that gunk can go straight through those ports right into the action of the gun, including the locking mechanism. What would happen if you got mud and dirt up underneath that locking mechanism? It probably wouldn't work, but I don't know. Not a big fan of that. I like systems that are sealed up and not so open to the elements. The short recoil system, if you're going to use this with a suppressor, just make sure, again, you put a booster on it, because the barrel does move, and because it does move, you'll want that booster on the can. You won't want a fixed muzzle device or a fixed device in your suppressor. So what do I think of this thing overall? For the money, there's so many other better options on the market. I mean, if you just like the looks of it, which I do, I think it looks very sleek. I like the way it shoots. We've had great reliability with the gun with the two different types of ammunition out here. We have both German and US magazines. When we saw this gun a couple of years ago at the Epic shoot, the gun was having all sorts of functional issues, and they attributed it to the fact that they either only had US mags or only had German mags. I don't recall which. Garand Thumb mentioned in his video that they were taking US mags and I think potentially changing apart like the follower or something in them to improve reliability. I don't know, but you'd want to take a look into that before you bought more magazines for the gun if you went ahead and bought one of these, if you chose to do so. Me, at first I had a lot of interest in this gun because I thought it was just sexy and I love LWRC products, but after playing with it, I'm just not that impressed, especially at the price point that it's at. Again, there's so many better options out there for that kind of money that's not going to have problems with accuracy, either at the present or down the road as parts start to wear. So with that, I would say it's not worth the money. But the end product or the last person to make that call should be you, the consumer, not me. I'm not going to tell you what you should or shouldn't buy. But for me, I would never spend the money for this gun. All right, guys, if you have any comments, I'd love to read those comments down below. If we've overlooked something or if there's something else you've noticed about the SMG45 that we didn't cover in this video, comment down below. We will stick around for the first few days after a video goes live to answer the questions and read those comments. We learn a lot from you as well. So again, I look forward to those comments down below. And if you'd like to support us here at the Military Arms channel so we can continue to bring you content like this, please consider becoming part of our Patreon family. There's a link in the video description below. Click that link. You'll get early access to videos like this. You'll have direct access to me. I answer all private communications, and you'll have access to our really cool online community and private Facebook page. Again, there's a link in the video description below. Also, right here on YouTube, you got that little join button underneath the video player you're watching right now. Click that join button and consider supporting us right here on YouTube. And last but not least, guys, please swing by and check out coppercustom.com. We'd like to thank them for letting us use this gun today. And with that being said, thank you for 13 years of support. We'll talk to you guys soon.